Hi guys, good afternoon. So today we are going to see what a class is and what an object is. So we have always been talking about object-oriented programming languages, and the examples are C++, Java, C Sharp, etc. Right? So the fundamental unit of any object-oriented programming is an object. And if you see in real world, anything can be considered as an object. Once we take any object and we identify the properties and the behaviors of it, then we can classify all such objects into one group or into one category, and that category we call it as a class. For example, let's take um, a pen or something. So whenever you say a pen, there is a picture of a pen in your mind, right? So pen is actually a class, because whenever you say a pen, you get certain properties like height, width, company, and what is the pen type, whether it is ballpoint pen or ink pen, etc., right? So and actions can be writing, then changing the refill, etc. So if you see, all these are properties or attributes. So these properties or attributes are some identifiers for a class. So whenever we say a pen, this is the expected behavior, or these are the properties that are expected to that a pen has, right? So we also often refer to a word called state. Let's see what a state is. So usually state is the value that is assigned to that particular attribute at any point of time. For example, let's say again, let's take an example of the pen only. So whenever we talk about a pen is only a generalization. So when we come to the specific details, for example, which company pen it is, let's say I'm using a cello gripper. So the company is cello, and which variety pen it is a gripper pen. Similarly, we have other different varieties of pens in the same company, isn't it? So whenever you define all these attributes for that particular class or that object, it becomes a state. So the same cello gripper pen is an object. Pen is a class, but when it comes to a cello gripper pen, it became an object because it has a certain height, which is approximately 15 centimeters, width, which is 1 centimeter, and also it has a different radius at the bottom and top, let's say some 5 mm and 2 mm respectively. And then the pen type is ballpoint pen, right? And the variety is gripper, and the company is cello. So these are the values of the attributes that we have identified. Once we have given values for all these properties or attributes, that is called a state. So only objects can have a state. Similarly, a class can also have behaviors. Behaviors are nothing but actions that are expected to be performed by any object of that class. So for the same example pen, here the behaviors could be writing and then changing the refill, etc. So let's go to the next slide. Let's understand the different objects in this picture. For example, if you see in this picture, there are objects like chair, table, there is a monitor, there are books, there are plants, and there's a mat, there are some wall hangings, etc., right? So all these are objects, and whenever we tell that there is a specific class or object in mind, it has certain dimensions, so we will get some picture in our mind, right? So that generalization, or having all those properties and behaviors, that becomes a class. So once you understand this class and object relation, and how to identify the properties of such a class, and how to create an object, you can create scalable projects. And if you see here, for example, this computer or monitor. So monitor is made up of many other objects, like there are transistors inside, and there is um, a lot of electronic components. Again, these electronic components themselves can be considered as objects, and they also belong to certain group which we can identify as classes. Let's go to the next slide. So a common example of a class is person, right? So person is expected to have certain attributes or properties or variables. So these are the different names that we have given for attributes. So let us identify what properties or attributes a person has. The first one is name. The person can have an address, he has an height, weight, etc. Similarly, the person is also expected to have some actions or behaviors like walk, talk, run, sleep, work, watching a movie, etc. So, once we have identified the properties and the behaviors, then we can easily create a class. So you can more specifically create more meaningful names like height in inches, weight in kgs, etc. And once we have a class person, now we can create objects of that person. So for example, here I am creating a person and I am assigning a name Vishwanath. I am assigning a particular address to that person, and what is the height of that person in inches, which is 72 inches, and what is the weight in kgs, 80.5 kgs, and you can call the different methods or action that that person can perform. Now, whenever we come to how to name a class, usually we follow the Pascal case. Pascal case is nothing but it has a capital letter at the beginning of every word. So if you see here, P in Pascal and C in case are both capitalized. So this is how you name a class. Class names follow Pascal case, and there shouldn't be any spaces. It should be readable, easy to read. Some examples are student, student demo, and if you want to create a class of a car, it's simply car. If you want to create class for maths operations, then this is how we create a class, maths operations with M and O capitalized. Similarly, for ATM or abbreviations, usually we only capitalize the first letter. Next, let's see what a camel case is. So whenever we are naming the variables or attributes or properties and the methods, we follow camel case. What is meant by camel cases? Just like how a camel has a hump, the starting letter of the word is a smaller case letter, and the subsequent words are started with a capital letter. So if you see here in camel case also, the first C is smaller, but the C in the case is capital. And the examples are big number. So as you can see, B is smaller, N is capital. Some of the numbers, if this is the method name you want to give, or if this is the attribute name you want to give, you have to give something like this, sum of the numbers, where you're capitalizing the first letters except that of the first word. Similarly, show ATM menu. S is smaller, A is capital in ATM, and M is capital in menu. Let's see another example, which is of car simulation. So if you see what are the properties and attributes of a car, so car can have a name, it can have a state, it will definitely have a current speed. If it is not moving, the current speed is 0. If it is moving, then the current speed is the speed with whatever it is running. Similarly, we can have a max speed. Usually for cars, it could be some 250 kmph, etc. Right? Then we have headlight state. So this can also be just like on and off, right? Next we have a mileage. Again, mileage depends on multiple factors, like what is the weight of the car, and how many persons are sitting, how much luggage is it carrying, etc. Right? And are we using air conditioning mechanism, what is the temperature that is maintained. So everything that consumes fuel is usually, or that usually impacts the mileage. Similarly, we have current fuel. Current fuel also keeps changing as and when the car is moving. Then we have fuel capacity, which is a constant. This is usually given by the manufacturers. So the fuel capacity of certain car could be 50 liters, it could be 40 liters for another car type, etc. So once we have identified the properties or attributes, let's move to the methods. Now, start is one method, isn't it? Like, you can start the car. These are all the actions that can be performed by using that particular object. So you can stop a car, then you can also apply a brake, you can accelerate the car, you can of course slow down. So you can also switch on the headlights, you can switch off the headlights, you can refill the fuel as well, right? And show details is just to print what are the properties, values. So you can simply say what is the state at any current point in time. So that is that you can print using show details. Yeah, that's it for this session, guys. Let's meet in the next session. Thank you.